The camera opens on a gray Manila morning, the city alive yet suffocating. Jeepneys roar through crowded streets, vendors shout above the noise, and somewhere, amid the chaos, a quiet man in a police uniform begins his day. His name, Ben Macapagal, a man of duty, a man of patience, a man still foolish enough to believe that the law protects the innocent. Fernando Poe Jr., FPJ, steps into this world not as a larger-than-life hero, but as an honest soul trapped in a decaying system. In Batas Ko Ay Bala, he is both soldier and philosopher, an officer who has spent his life believing that justice can still triumph if one simply refuses to give up. But in a world like this, refusing to give up is the most dangerous thing a man can do. 1. The calm before the ruin. Ben's life is simple. He wakes up early, kisses his wife before leaving for work, and walks his young son to school. These early moments of domestic normalcy ground the film, showing FPJ's warmth and humanity. He isn't a man of words. He's a man of quiet actions. His eyes carry sincerity, a kind of goodness the camera loves to linger on. The direction here, minimal dialogue, slow tracking shots, and natural sound, makes the audience feel part of his daily routine. We see a man at peace with the little things, polishing his badge, saying hello to street sweepers, sharing coffee with fellow officers. Yet, even in these calm scenes, there's tension hiding underneath. The other officers mock his sense of morality. They call him too clean, too by the book, and one even warns, "In this city, Ben, the law doesn't feed you." He ignores it, smiles, and answers softly, "But it's what keeps me alive." That single line defines his entire philosophy, until tragedy tests it. 2. The crime that shattered a man. The turning point arrives without warning. Ben's wife and son become witnesses to a brutal crime orchestrated by a powerful businessman and his hired thugs. The syndicate wants to silence them before they can testify. One rainy night, while Ben is out on a call, his home is invaded. The scene is handled with restraint. No music, just the sound of thunder and muffled screams. When Ben returns, the house is in ruins. The camera stays on his face as realization sinks in. FPJ doesn't scream or overact, he simply collapses, eyes hollow, breathing uneven. His trembling hands touch the bloodied toy car on the floor. It's a moment of silence so heavy that the audience feels his soul fracture in real time. It's not just grief, it's awakening. The police investigation that follows is corrupt from the start. Evidence disappears, witnesses recant, the case is buried, the killers walk free, laughing, untouchable. And that's when the man who once served the law decides to become it. 3. The breaking point. The first half of the film's title, Batas Ko Ay Bala, My Hand is the Law, becomes literal in this turning point. FPJ sheds the uniform, burns his police badge, and vows to hunt the guilty himself. The transformation is quiet but chilling. There's no dramatic speech, only a change in the way he moves. Slower, heavier, more deliberate. This section marks the beginning of FPJ's metamorphosis from disciplined officer to relentless vigilante. His moral compass doesn't disappear, it hardens. He still believes in justice, but now his definition of justice no longer needs permission. He visits the places the system avoids, back alleys, gambling dens, corrupt precincts. He begins gathering names, people who had a hand in covering up the case. Each encounter is filmed with stark realism. FPJ Stare does most of the talking. One by one, he dismantles the network. A crooked lawyer found dead in his car. A police captain mysteriously shot during a robbery attempt. The city whispers of a ghost in the shadows, someone delivering justice faster than the courts. And as always in FPJ's world, the people begin to hope again. 4. The people's champion. What sets Batas Ko Ay Bala apart from other revenge films is that FPJ's violence never feels empty. His every act is anchored by empathy. The audience doesn't see a killer, they see a man forced to do what no one else dared. Vendors whisper his name, mothers light candles for him, poor workers speak of him with reverence. To them, he's not a criminal, he's the law they never had. There's a stunning sequence where Ben rescues a kidnapped child from one of the syndicate's hideouts. The terrified face mirrors his own son's. FPJ carries the child through a rainstorm as gunfire echoes in the distance, a visual metaphor for redemption. It's the film's heart. Amidst vengeance, there is still compassion. But his actions have consequences. The authorities label him a rogue, an outlaw. Newspapers sensationalize him as the mad policeman. His former comrades are ordered to hunt him down. Ironically, they are chasing the one man doing their job honestly. Ben's old superior, Chief Inspector Abad, becomes the face of the institution. Abad is torn. He knows Ben's heart, but the law binds him to duty. Their relationship adds emotional gravity to the story. Abad isn't a villain. He's the reflection of what Ben used to be, loyal to the law, but powerless to make it righteous. In one beautifully framed scene, the two men meet secretly in a church. Rain pours outside, candlelight flickers. FPJ's deep voice cuts through the silence. If justice has no place in your office, then it will find its place in my hands. Abad doesn't argue. He only whispers, "Then may God forgive you." To which FPJ replies, "He already did." It's not a threat, it's a confession. The storm that Fernando Poe Jr.'s character had set in motion in the first part of Batas Ko Ay Kamay only grows stronger here. The second half of the film deepens its sense of justice, conflict, and moral conviction. FPJ, known for portraying men who act not out of rage but out of principle, takes the narrative to a higher level, where his battles are no longer about vengeance alone, but about defending the very essence of righteousness in a decaying society. As the film opens into its second act, the consequences of his earlier actions begin to unfold. The corrupt elements of the city, threatened by his defiance, start to tighten their grip. We see power in its most ruthless form. Police officers working hand in hand with crime syndicates, politicians manipulating the courts, and media outlets silenced by money. FPJ's character, once a simple man with a personal mission, becomes a public enemy. But for him, that label becomes a badge of truth. The law, he begins to realize, was never meant to protect the innocent when it is owned by the powerful. The director's pacing in this part of the movie shifts from tension to introspection. The camera lingers longer on FPJ's expressions, allowing the audience to witness the weight of every choice he makes. His eyes carry the exhaustion of a man who knows that justice often demands personal sacrifice. And yet, that same fatigue is the mark of his moral endurance, a signature FPJ trait that became a cornerstone of Philippine cinema. A crucial element in this phase of the movie is the contrast between individual morality and institutional corruption. FPJ's character finds unlikely allies, common folk, vendors, laborers, even a young journalist, people who have nothing but their faith in a better tomorrow. These characters mirror the Filipino spirit, hopeful, resilient, and unwilling to surrender to tyranny. They see in FPJ's stand a reflection of their own struggle against systems that deny them dignity. From a storytelling perspective, the film subtly shifts from being a revenge drama into a moral crusade. FPJ becomes more than a man avenging a wrong. He becomes a symbol of how justice can live outside the courtroom. There's a recurring motif of the gun, his kamay or hand, that becomes not a tool of violence, but an extension of his principle. It's a poetic metaphor. When the law fails, sometimes the hand of a righteous man must rise to restore balance. The film's action sequences in this part are both raw and symbolic. Every fight scene feels earned, less about spectacle, more about emotional release.
FPJ, known for choreographing many of his own fight scenes, brings a sense of authenticity that Hollywood action films often lack. His punches feel personal, his gunshots deliberate, and his standoffs heavy with moral weight. Each confrontation reflects a statement about courage, justice, and the cost of peace. The narrative tension reaches its peak when FPJ's character discovers that the very people sworn to uphold the law are behind the network of corruption that destroyed his life. This revelation turns the film into a moral mirror for the audience. It asks an uncomfortable question. What does one do when the law itself becomes the enemy? In this moment, Batas Ko Ay Bala transcends its genre. It becomes a social commentary on power and morality in a time when truth can be bought and justice silenced. The climax of the film is one of FPJ's most unforgettable sequences. Surrounded by enemies, outnumbered, and wounded, he refuses to yield. His monologue, delivered in silence, through expression and resolve, communicates everything. He doesn't need to say words. His presence alone carries the conviction that justice, even when defeated, will always rise again. The shootout that follows isn't merely an ending, it's a catharsis. The bullets fired are symbols of defiance, of truth breaking through oppression. As the dust settles, FPJ's character stands amid the wreckage, battered but unbroken. He doesn't celebrate victory. Instead, he walks away in silence, leaving behind a city that must now face its reflection. The director's choice to end with minimal dialogue and lingering shots of the aftermath gives the movie a haunting sense of realism. Justice has been served, but peace feels fragile. It's a sobering reminder that in a corrupt world, heroes are not born, they're forged in pain. In the film's closing moments, there's a quiet montage showing the people who believed in him carrying on his fight. Citizens standing up to injustice, communities rebuilding trust, a child looking at FPJ's photograph as if gazing at a legend. It's a poignant touch that reinforces the idea that heroism is not about fame or survival. It's about inspiring courage in others. From a cinematic standpoint, Batas Ko Ay Bala stands as one of FPJ's most polished works of the late 1980s and early 1990s. The balance between action and moral depth reflects the evolution of Philippine storytelling during that era. The movie was celebrated for its grounded realism, its careful blend of suspense and substance, and FPJ's commanding yet empathetic portrayal. Critics noted how it transcended the limitations of its genre by grounding its violence in ethics rather than mere entertainment. In terms of box office performance, the film was a strong success in local theaters. It resonated with the masses because of its accessibility and authenticity. Viewers saw their daily struggles reflected in FPJ's defiance. It also performed well in rural areas where FPJ's fanbase was strongest. The simplicity of its message, "The law is my hand," became both a slogan and a metaphor for empowerment. When the award season arrived, Batas Ko Ay Bala received critical recognition. FPJ was lauded for his performance, and the film earned nominations for Best Picture and Best Direction in several local award-giving bodies. Though not his most commercially massive hit, it was deeply respected as one of his most socially relevant works. Beyond accolades, what made the film enduring was its cultural impact. It echoed the Filipino sentiment that justice cannot wait for permission. FPJ's embodiment of integrity, his refusal to compromise, and his quiet heroism influenced not just cinema, but also the collective imagination of the nation. He became more than an actor. He was the face of hope in an era of disillusionment. Thematically, Batas Ko Ay Bala explored duality, law versus morality, silence versus defiance, and personal vengeance versus collective justice. The title itself encapsulates the philosophy of the film, that when institutions fail, conscience must act. This message remains timeless, resonating even in modern contexts where corruption still tests the moral fabric of society. As the end credits roll, the music swells softly, evoking both victory and loss. FPJ's legacy, as always, lingers beyond the screen. The film closes not with closure, but with a promise that righteousness, no matter how outnumbered, will never be erased. The audience leaves the theater not merely entertained, but awakened, reminded that courage is not loud, it is steadfast. In hindsight, Batas Ko Aking Kamay stands as a cinematic testament to FPJ's understanding of heroism. His character is not invincible. He bleeds, suffers, and questions himself. But that vulnerability is what makes him powerful. The law may be written in books, but justice, the movie tells us, is written in the heart of every honest man. Through its layered narrative, memorable action, and moral intensity, the film immortalizes FPJ's philosophy that every Filipino, when pushed to the edge, carries the power to uphold what is right. His kamay is not just his weapon, it is his will, his conviction, and his humanity. And that is what makes Batas Ko Aking Kamay not just another action film, but a timeless reminder that true justice cannot be silenced and that one man's courage can awaken a nation's conscience.